What's poppin' everyone, it's your boy Levi, and welcome back to the Complete Beginner's Guide to Eternal Return. This is episode 2, and we're going to be looking at mastery and skill enhancement tutorials. Stick around to the end, and I'll show you one really niche tip that might just save you in a tight situation. So starting off, when we jump into the tutorial, we're going to be back on Yuki again, and the game is going to give us some important information this time.
Gaining mastery allows you to level up, giving access to stronger skills.
Mastery is Eternal Return's level system. It's how you increase your stats, and importantly, what determines your damage. There are 8 different types of mastery, but weapon mastery is what will play a significant role in each of your games. As explained last video, you can see a character's weapon mastery above their level. Weapon mastery does not determine whether you will outright win a fight or not. I like to think of it as how hard you'll have to work to win that fight. If you have a higher weapon mastery, you might get away with a misplay. If you're down in mastery, there's less room for error. If you press your mastery button, or whatever you have it bound to, it'll open up the mastery menu. As you can see, quite literally everything you do in Eternal Return grants you mastery. You heard what the game said, right? This is very important information. Stay active to increase mastery level. Basically, this means everything you do in game should have a purpose. Wandering around the map aimlessly is the only thing that doesn't increase your mastery. And even then, it still kinda does with movement mastery. If you want to read what each mastery does, just pause over the video as I hover over each one. Mastery can stack up to level 20. Each character has a specific type of weapon mastery. As you can see, Yuki's weapons are two-handed sword and dual swords. They are both level 1 because that's where we start the game as. But if we start fighting animals or other players, it'll increase. It's important to note that unless you're playing Alex specifically, only a weapon mastery type of the weapon that you're using will increase in mastery. If I play 99% of the game with two-handed sword Yuki, level it up to 20, and then I switch to dual swords for the final fight, I'm basically playing as if I'm level 1 again. Quick note, pawn has been adjusted for this tutorial. There aren't actually boxes here near this tuft of grass before the bridge, or at the start of this bridge. They've been moved here for the tutorial specifically. Same with the items that you will find here in Pond. Some of them are not actually found here in Pond, and once again, don't use this Yuki build in a real game. Only some of these items are good. The game's going to make you fight without your full build again, so make sure you don't do this in a real game. Each weapon type will give you a specific stat, so if you play other characters, check to see what stats you're getting from their weapon. When your weapon mastery reaches level 7, you will unlock your weapon skill. Each weapon type has a different weapon skill. For two-handed sword, you parry incoming damage and CC. You then take a step forward and do skill damage back. Honestly, I don't think I've ever seen anyone prioritize the skill damage on the end of the parry. I see it always used entirely to block ultimate or CC. Your weapon skill can be upgraded at weapon mastery 14 and made a little bit stronger. Time for our first tip, and this one has to do with looting and crafting. Most characters have some type of mobility spell. In the early game, you want to use this mobility spell to help cover gaps in between looting. Then when it goes on cooldown, you can craft at the box for maximum efficiency. Here, watch the difference in speed. On the left, you can see how much slower it is to craft after each individual item grab. You should only do this if you need the inventory room. On the right, we craft when our mobility spell is on cooldown. If that information was new to you, then maybe leave a like and subscribe to be notified for more quick tips. There will be bears here starting at night 1. There's 2 that will spawn here, despite only 1 being in the tutorial. As you continue on with the tutorial, there will also be wolves here. Normally in a real game, there's no wolves in Pond, so they're just here for the tutorial items. Once you kill the wolves, you'll pretty much be full build. The last component is on the Shukai, so show him who the true Master Chef is. Once again, I don't know why blood isn't on a bear. You could have put a force core on one bear and blood on the other, because there are 2 bears that usually spawn there. Then, you would be full build to fight the Shukai. Complete your build and move on. Once you enter Temple, the game is going to do something interesting. It's going to teach you about restricted zones. As you can see, Temple is now orange, meaning that it's going to turn a restricted zone soon. Restricted areas, or also known as red zones, are areas that are closed on the map. Being in them will consume your restricted zone timer. Restricted timers are unique to each player. When your timer hits 0, you'll die on the spot. Think of the restricted timer as a resource rather than a restriction. There will be times you want to use your restricted timer to your advantage. If you're running away from a player and you run into a restricted area, you force the player chasing you to make a decision about how much of their own restricted timer they want to use to try and kill you. If you have more timer than they have, you'll probably just get away for free most of the time. On the contrary, if you're chasing a player into the restricted area, they eventually have to leave that zone. If there's no hyperloop in that that zone, you can just camp the entrance and wait for them to come out. There will also be times where you'll want to dip into a restricted zone to grab a rare resource or to take an objective like Wick. These are all good uses of your timer. And at the start, I promised you one niche tip, so here it is. Restricted timer doesn't actually operate on its own rhythm. And what I mean by that is that the game time is what determines the cadence of restricted time. This means that if you were to weave in and out of a red zone in between the seconds as the game time ticks, your restricted timer won't actually go down, despite you spending more than a second in the zone. Like I said, this is super niche and I've only ever seen it useful once. Full explanation will be on my community tab. Kill off the final opponent and you're done with the tutorial. For completing the tutorial, you'll get some A-coin, which should go towards buying your first character. If you want to know what character that should be, make sure to click the card above for my Who You Should Main video. If you learned anything in this video, leave me a like and subscribe. I'll be in the comments answering any questions y'all have again, and make sure to click the video in the end card to learn this one tip that will save you in a battle zone.